Let's talk about AI. You know, this image you're looking at, it's not just some cool graphic. It's the perfect metaphor for what we're digging into today. Artificial intelligence is this incredible, powerful, double-edged sword that is, right now, completely reshaping our world. And we're going to explore both sides of that blade. So what's the big conversation around AI all about? Well, it really boils down to this massive tug of war. On one side, you've got this incredible promise of progress like we've never seen before. The potential to solve some of our species' biggest, oldest problems. But on the other side, you've got the very real risk of problems we can't even predict yet. It's humanity's next great tool for sure, but how we decide to use it, that's going to be everything. And make no mistake, this isn't some niche tech thing happening in a corner. Just look at this number. A whopping 92% of large companies are planning to pour more money into AI by 2028. This isn't just a trend, you guys. It's a tidal wave of cash and a fundamental shift in our economy that's already happening.
So to really get a handle on where all this is going, we kind of need to understand how we got here in the first place. Which brings us to our first chapter, the journey of AI to this very moment.
You know, AI has actually been a concept for a lot longer than most people think. The term itself, coined way back in 1956. But the pace of change has just hit light speed recently. I mean, think about it. In 1997, it was a huge deal when IBM's Deep Blue beat a chess master. Fast forward to 2017, and Google drops the Transformer architecture. Now that was the real game changer. It's what allowed AI to understand language and context, paving the way for, well, everything we see now. And then, boom, 2022 hits, and ChatGPT just unleashes generative AI on the entire world.
So that brings us to the really exciting, optimistic side of this story. Let's talk about the promise of acceleration. We're talking about how AI is literally set to revolutionize pretty much everything by speeding up discovery and innovation in ways we can barely imagine. The sheer scale of what we're talking about here is it's mind-boggling. The CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, he calls it the compressed 21st century. He thinks we could see a century's worth of innovation packed into the next decade. Just sit with that for a second. The time between huge scientific breakthroughs could shrink from a lifetime to just a few months.
And this isn't just some sci-fi theory. It's already having a real impact right now. In healthcare, it's making disease identification and drug discovery way faster. In manufacturing, it's predicting when machines will fail, making things safer. It's creating personalized lesson plans for students, making supply chains greener, and spotting fraud in finance. These are real-world wins.
Okay, but you knew there was a but coming, right? That's only half the story. For all of its incredible promise, AI also comes with some really serious challenges. So let's flip the coin and look at the perils and paradoxes.
One of the first things that comes to mind, of course, is jobs. And this number is pretty stark. By 2028, it's expected that 44% of workers' skills are going to be disrupted. Now, the key thing here isn't just about jobs disappearing. It's that the actual skills you and I might need to do our jobs are fundamentally changing for almost half the entire workforce. Hey, remember a minute ago when we said AI could help the climate by making supply chains more efficient? Well, this is where things get really complicated. AI can be a tool for sustainability, but there's a huge, often invisible environmental price tag attached. Get this. The process of just building and training these massive AI models is incredibly power-hungry. We could be looking at an 80% increase in carbon emissions just from that process. That's a big enough footprint to potentially wipe out all the environmental good that AI creates in other areas. It's like taking one step forward and two giant steps back.
And if the economic and environmental stuff wasn't enough, there's a whole ethical minefield to walk through. Think about it. AI models learn from data created by us, by humans. That means they can accidentally learn and even amplify our worst biases, leading to discriminatory decisions. They can be used to create scarily realistic deepfakes that make it impossible to tell what's real. And they raise these giant questions about our privacy and who owns what, with huge lawsuits challenging the very idea of teaching a machine using our collective creativity.
So, what are we doing about all this? Well, the honest answer is the world is scrambling to play catch-up. You're seeing some early moves like the AI Bill of Rights in the US or the first big global safety summit. But all the lawsuits and the heated debates, they show that we are in the very early and very messy stages of figuring out the rulebook for this technology.
And that brings us to our final and honestly most important question.
how do we actually shape our AI future? Because the key thing to remember here is that none of this is set in stone. The future isn't something that just happens to us.
A massive part of the answer lies with people, with us. As Professor Clara Narstead says, for AI to work for everyone, we must invest tremendously in education to retrain people for new jobs. We can't just focus on building the tech. We have to focus on building up our own skills to adapt right alongside it.
So what's the game plan? Well, it seems to boil down to 3 really critical steps. First, we have to make education and learning new skills a top priority. Second, we need to get ahead of the curve and create smart, thoughtful rules instead of just reacting to problems. And third, we have to demand that the companies building these things are transparent and design them to be ethical from the ground up. So in the end, it all comes down to this one fundamental challenge. We are building machines that are getting smarter and smarter, better at processing information, better at solving problems. They're developing their intelligence. The real question that leaves us with is this: how will we as humans develop our wisdom?